We had Steelers football this weekend, second preseason game, and I want to start right with the tweet that you sent out saying that it's going to be awfully hard to keep Kenny Pickett off the field. He played well yet again, 6 of 7 passing, but I still think the Steelers should start Trubisky, but Pickett's looked awfully impressive in 2 preseason games for the Steelers.
Yeah, it's looking hard. It's looking hard not to start him. You know, then you look at what Najee Harris said about Kenny Pickett, like, man, we just want to make sure on the offensive side that Kenny Pickett knows, regardless on who gets the starting job, that we're here for them and we're here for him. So, and when I saw Najee say that, I was like, the writing might be on the wall on how the offense might feel about a particular quarterback. Then when you see him go and he leads a 2-minute drill, not once, but twice. You know, he led one to win the game against the Seattle Seahawks. Then he messed around and led another one for the half, right before half against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, so Kenny doing this thing like he's supposed to be back there. Like, he reading coverages, he making quick decisions. If he's in trouble, he's getting out of that like he's supposed to. Like, he's been doing this thing for 15 years. So when I'm watching Kenny, I'm like, oh man, like, practice all the way different from the game. Like, it looks like Kenny is just a gamer, you know. And when you just look at him, just gradually go through his reads, Mark. Like, it's pop, pop, pop. It's 1, 2, 3. First, he looks at the coverage. The line sets their protection. He looks at the coverage. When it comes down to passing, it's first, second, third read. I'm there. And that's hard as a rookie. So when I'm seeing Kenny doing this consistently, like, that's why Coach T had to say, you know, we want to see what Kenny can do with the varsity. Mm-hmm. And he know what he can do with the varsity. But I was telling people, I think, and we was talking about this when Kenny got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, like, he's more athletic than what you think. You know, and he was able to escape a few out the Seattle game, but then he switched it up. In the Jacksonville Jaguars game, he sat in the pocket. And he threw that thing in the middle down the seam to Pat Fairmore. And when you see that, you like, oh, he can just do it all. And when we get to see that, we as in his teammates, we see that on a Monday. When we watching tape and coaches are great and we see that thing on a Monday and we're like, oh, you see him sit in the pocket and take that hit and deliver that ball right on time? What you want us to do? That's how we're looking at a teammate. I know on the defensive side, when we saw that from time to time, we're like, what you want us to do, man? We got to go out and get these 3 and out and give that man the ball back. So that's exactly what Kenny Pickett is bringing to the table, man. He just bringing, man, I got this to the table. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what the situation is for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you already know Kenny Pickett in his mind, like, man, I got it. Don't need to worry about it.
Ike, you might be the perfect person to ask this question to because you were boots on the ground in Latrobe for about 2 weeks with the Steelers. Do you notice a difference between Kenny Pickett in practice and Kenny Pickett when it comes to the 2 preseason games?
Yeah. To Kenny's defense, he was going with the third team. So the third offensive line was kind of, golly, what y'all doing around here? Put me and Mark out there, man. I'm sure we can block somebody a little bit better than that. So when you was looking at the evaluation, you was like, dang, Kenny, you know, you was like, dang, Kenny. But then when you look at what's in front of him, you're like, man, let's give Kenny a shot and see what Kenny can do with the first or second team. Then he got on the second team. Then you start to see what he can do a little bit on the second team. I didn't get a chance to see him on the first team towards the end. And then I was like, oh, okay. But then you saw when he got in the game, you know, and that was like the third team group, second team group with the Seattle Seahawks. And it was like he was just calm. And man, you and I talked about this on our show, like, okay, let's see what he do outside of Pittsburgh. Like, for Acrisure Field was Heinz Field, but for Acrisure Field now, it's like, that's home for Kenny. So Kenny gonna always feel like he can do good at home. He been playing there for 4 or 5 years. So this ain't that. Let's see what he do when he's not at home. So he wound up going down to Jacksonville. Coach wound up putting him on the varsity level offensive line and the surrounding cast around him. And like, okay, now he's playing situational football. So he gets to play on varsity. He handled his business. Now you give him a little bit of adversity right before halftime, and he delivers. And he looks like he's just been doing it for a while, as a rookie. People forgetting. So we'll see when they get the game plan, and we'll see what the coach's decision may be for the start of the season. But when these teams get the game plan, it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother level. And that's why I still think it'll be hard not to start Kenny, but they still might go with Mitch because Mitch has been through. So it's easier to play Mitch, let Mitch struggle if he does, then play Kenny. Then play Kenny, let Kenny struggle, then play Mitch, then go back to Kenny. Nah, I think it's either they're going to be all the way in with Kenny and just ride him out throughout the season, or they'll start Mitch, depending on his last game. They'll start Mitch, see what Mitch can do. If not, they'll go on and put Kenny in.
The first 6 games of the Steelers' schedule, they're only favored in one. It's a brutal 6-game stretch to start the season. Opening week against the Cincinnati Bengals, the team that beat the Steelers twice last season and was the conference representative in the Super Bowl. This might not be popular among Steelers fans, but this is just my opinion, Ike. I don't care if Kenny Pickett has an 100% completion percentage in the last preseason game. It's preseason. And I kind of go back to what our friend Dave Damashek says, where it's almost like a war reenactment with the preseason because defenses are super vanilla. Defensive coordinators aren't going to roll out their exotic blitz packages and fronts and schemes and game plans to confuse quarterbacks. And so I'll say this with Pickett. If he can be the backup behind Trubisky and beat out Mason Rudolph, it's not that I think the world of Mason Rudolph, but he does have starting experience in this league. That'd be a huge win for Pickett to win the backup role. And so I think you start with Trubisky. I'm with you there. See where you're at after the first 4 games and go from there. The earliest I would probably start Pickett would be week 10 coming out of the bye week. That's November the 13th against the Saints, Ike. Just because I'm totally with you to where if Pickett struggles early on, then you got to go to Mitch versus vice versa of someone who has starting experience in this league and has playoff experience and at one point was a Pro Bowler in Mitch Trubisky. I would start with Trubisky. And one thing I saw from Trubisky in the game too is offensive line breaks down. He is able to make guys miss. The offensive line play, Ike, was something that really stuck out to me because the Jaguars were getting to the quarterback with 4 pass rushers consistently in that preseason game. Steelers didn't run the ball very well at all either. So you at least have quarterbacks out there that can make the first defender miss, something we haven't seen the last several years with Big Ben on the back end of his career.
Yeah, but Kenny Pickett can do the same thing, Mark. He did it for 2 games as well. But what you did like about Kenny was him sitting in the pocket, man. You don't want your quarterback taking them kind of hits often. But the fact that Kenny as a rookie was able to take that hit and deliver says a lot about Kenny Pickett and how much he values his teammates that can come through for him. Now, Mark, what people didn't see and what they're not talking about was Chase Claypool sitting in the slot. That's what they didn't see. So it was George Pickens on the outside, Deontay Johnson on the outside. It was Chase Claypool sitting in the slot. So when you have a guy like that and Kenny Pickett or Mr. Trubisky, they're going to already know, man, I got 2 tight ends. I got 2 big bodies. I got 2 power forwards. I got Pat and I got Chase if I want them to work the seams. And I'm going to like Chase on these one-on-ones against the third cornerback or the first or the down safety coming down. And if I'm looking at Pat, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna like this matchup, Pat, between any linebacker or a safety or a corner. So when I saw that, I was like, ooh. So it really doesn't matter who's behind the center. Because when you got George sitting on the outside, you got Deontay sitting on the outside, you got Chase at 6'4", 230, 225 sitting in the slot, and you got Pat. So you got, all right, I got 2 power forwards sitting right next door to me. And I got a small shifty Ferrari sitting on the outside of my left of me, and that's Deontay. And I just got a damn dog. I just got a dog in George Pickens, a car with no brakes. You know what I'm saying? He just a drag racer. Whenever I want to make some money, I'm gonna put the 1,500 horsepower engine on the track and just say, go get him. in George. So, and I forgot I got that goddamn Sasquatch. He just so happened running back Najee Harris. So, man, really at my disposal, Mark, I got pretty much everything you can look for, baby. I got somebody in the wild behind me that you might see in the woods every blue moon. I got somebody drag racing. I got a Ferrari to do my shows, and I got 2 Ford F-350 dually trucks sitting right inside of me. Man, what the heck you want me to do? So as a quarterback, man, I got everything when it comes down to what I need, depending on which day and depending on the matchups at my wide receiver / running back positions, tight end positions.
Let me make sure I have this right. We have basketball references, car references, and a Sasquatch reference. I Bleav that's the trifecta.
Oh, 100%. I just made that. I appreciate you, Mark.
Just trying to keep tally for those listening and watching at home. Hey, you mentioned Pickett. One other point I wanted to make about him, too. You mentioned him staying in the pocket. How about throwing a touchdown to Deontay Johnson, it getting called back for penalty, not panicking, and still throwing a touchdown pass to Benny Snell? I'm like, oh, man, we're wiping points off the board. No sweat. Let's just go and do it again. And that's what Kenny Pickett did on that 2-minute drive to close out the first half.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny's balling, bro. He doesn't look like a rookie. And time will tell when the regular season comes, but really, I'm just making excuses to see, I'm making excuses because I'm hoping and wishing I'm hoping and wishing Kenny Pickett does well. But I understand how the regular season works. But when you just look at what he has around him, Mark, he got everything a quarterback will want, especially as a rookie on the offensive side. You got 3 good receivers, you got 2 good tight ends, and you really got 2 good running backs. So the only thing that's hurting is really your offensive line, but what makes up for that is guys on the outside who can get open ASAP and win one-on-one matches. So
yeah.
Kenny, like, man, I don't need 3. Just give me 2.5. Y'all give me 2.5 seconds to throw the ball. I got action because I'm going to deliver. And hopefully, throughout the season, the offensive line, they can go on and get that chemistry going and they can nip some things in the bud and everything and be all good. Then it's really going to be trouble. But, yeah, man, I'm looking at Kenny, man. That's why I tweeted, man, he making it hard because he consistent and he's calm. He's calm sitting. He's so calm, like he's been sitting with the monks for years, I'm telling you. Like he just been meditating. The dude calm back there, and you can tell he's just gradually going through his progression. And you can see how he's scanning the field. I don't know if people be watching. I'm seeing the man go 1, 2, and 3. I'm seeing him look at the coverage 1, 2, 3, bam. And I'm like, golly, man, they got people who've been in the league for 8 years still can't get that part, but Kenny is doing it. And that's why it's so impressive because he's sitting there as a rookie doing it.